I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I have a new interview, a new opinion piece, or some horror news for you to check out. But throughout the week, I'm still dropping countless reviews in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever. You don't want to miss any of that, and the best way to stay on top of all the content I'm dropping for you is to get subscribed to my link tree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page, to the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, including Phasmophobia for the PSVR 2, and to my Fangoria shop page, where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of that, folks, as the more followers I get, the more content I can put out for all of you. And don't forget, we do giveaways every single month. This month here in November, if you comment on any video I put up, you're going to be entered for a chance to win the novelization of X. That is right, folks. Author Tim Wagner, who has done novelizations for a lot of popular films over the last 15 years or so here, dropped the novelization of X just a few months ago, and as a matter of fact, the novelization of Pearl is set to release this week, and I know Maxine is coming, I want to say, in February. So your chance to get one of these here super quick. If you love Ty West's X and you want a little bit more insight on what the characters were thinking, what was some of the motivations that were going on in the movie as well too, this book does a great job of expanding on that. It is a fantastic companion piece to the film, folks. You definitely want to check this one out. So all you gotta do, comment on a video here in the month of November, enter for a chance to win X. So what are we talking about here tonight? Well, continuing on in my holiday horror series, where I told you about some of the big things that we're going to be coming out here in the remaining 2 months of the year, folks, tonight we are talking episode 1 of the recently premiered Shudder TV show, The Creep Tapes. That's right, folks. This is the continuation of the popular Creep franchise that started back in 2014 with a sequel in 2017, and there's been a big demand over the last 7 years to get something else in this franchise. If you're not aware of the Creep franchise, Patrick Brice and Mark Duplass, so you might know really well as a fantasy footballer from the popular FX TV show The League, came together to put this story on screen about this serial killer, this eccentric serial killer who had a habit of luring victims to his location by getting them to film him. Basically, he was looking for somebody to document a certain experience with each subsequent victim. Now, the first film focused on our serial killer, Joseph, as he was being called at that time, who was claiming that he was trying to film a documentary of like his last days alive because he had a pregnant wife and he wasn't going to be around to see the birth of his son. And so he's making this documentary so that his unborn son would eventually get a chance to know all about his father and just get that relationship that he wasn't going to have. But throughout the day of filming, documenter Aaron, played by Patrick Brice, starts to realize that something's very off about Joseph, and a lot of the story being told, a lot of the information being shared back and forth just really isn't adding up. Now, the film itself, if you walk into it completely blind, which I do apologize here, but we are at the 10-year rule actually, but if you walk into that first film blind, you know, it is unsettling earlier on. There's no question about that at all, but it takes a bit to really get a handle of why everything just feels so uncomfortable and why you know something is very much wrong here with Joseph, and what the heck is that actually going to end up being. And I think one of the things that has worked so well about this franchise and about Mark Duplass's character specifically is the fact that we keep rooting for him. I have to feel that is the draw to this character, is that every single time he interacts with a new victim, you keep hoping that it's not going to end up going the way that it very obviously is. Because there are certain parts to where, you know, Joseph, or Aaron as he's called, or Peachfuzz might actually be the better name, as that's the alter ego with the wolf mask that our serial killer likes to wear. But you almost feel that, like, when we get these certain moments of our killer connecting to his victims, that you wish that this might be the one victim that turns him from carrying out the act. Like, maybe this is the one that stops it all from happening. Now, of course, that can't be the case, because then we have no story at all, and this compulsion very much takes over. Like, the person that shows up, their death certificate is signed the moment that they get there, because we also tend to find out over the course of these films that our killer here has done a lot of research into his victims. So he knows way more about them, including perhaps where they live. So it's not like they can really just cut and run and everything would be okay. Now, in the second film, Joseph, now going by Aaron, his previous victim, uses that and decides to take a different approach, to where he tells his potential victim that he is a serial killer, and he wants this new documentarian that's coming to his place to document his last day, because he's going to kill himself when the day is done. And it's an interesting approach, because would you really show up to somebody who's very much telling you that they are a serial killer? Would you actually take that chance? Is there a good possibility that person is just crazy, they're lying to you, and of course they're not actually a real serial killer? Sure, there's a great possibility that that is the truth, but in all reality, why risk that? And it's that drive that people just have to know. But the second film ends vastly differently from the first one. And with that, it's not that it sets this TV show up, because one thing that we learn about in both of those films was that our killer had multiple victims, dozens and dozens of victims, as he has disc after disc and tape after tape of all these encounters that he's had. And that is very much the basis of this TV show. It's literally called The Creep Tapes, because we are watching random tapes that I have to imagine we're coming from like Aaron, Joseph's, Peachfuzz, his point of view on this, that he's literally just sitting back and watching these tapes. It could be that we're watching them as they are being initially filmed, because it's not like there's a chronological order that we really have to worry about with this franchise, with the exception being the ending of one playing a role with the second film. That is the only bit of continuity that we really have had to worry about here with this series. Now, with our first episode, because the thing about these episodes is that they're very, very much being named after the victims that our killer is going to meet. And so episode 1 is entitled Mike. Now, with this, episode 1 does feel like a bit of a rehash of the first film. That is not necessarily a bad thing. Filmmaker Mike gets hired to come and film what he thinks is going to be basically like a reel for our killer Peachfuzz, who, as Mike arrives, is dressed up like Dracula and doing very much a Dracula-styled monologue. And of course, right off the jump there, that is showing you again that this character cannot help but be eccentric in almost everything that he's doing, that he immediately has to catch these people off guard as a way of exerting that control. And that's exactly the way that this episode works out. Now, I think the down part so far is the fact that these episodes are only about 23 to 25 minutes long. Like, they're really, really short. We're talking about half-hour television sitcom length at this point. And I think the problem with that is that, at least with the first film, it's not like that film is particularly long. It's only 77 minutes. It's barely over an hour, but that's still more time to really settle in and let the gravity of the situation really, really unfold. Because again, if you approach that first movie completely blind, you already have an idea, obviously, that this is probably not going to end well for Aaron, who has shown up to film Joseph. But the first film plays out extremely slowly. Like, we see bits and pieces of Joseph's true personality and that psyche breaking through over the course of that hour-plus film. And the more time that we get to spend with Joseph and Aaron, we also understand why anybody would still stick around in this situation, why they might not be in a hurry to just get up and leave at this point, why they might be a little bit trusting of this person. And in the length of the TV show, I do worry that folks who are new to this franchise might not latch onto it so well until there's a few more episodes available, just because that is a short amount of time to jump into a horror project of this magnitude. And I'm saying good things about this franchise here. Like, when I say that, I just mean that this character has been written so good, and Duplass has done a magnificent job in this role here, that jumping into a short period of that just feels like you're not getting even close to the full power, the full presence of what this medium could really bring out. And so I do have to say that I feel that the first film is very much necessary watching to really get into this series, honestly. I think it's great. I do think it's really, really good here. But the issue again is that the first episode is a bit of a rehash of that very first film. And while it's good for sure, I do miss the fluff of that first movie. And I don't know whether that's something that can be blamed really on Duplass and Brice, just because of the fact that they're working within the constraints of what they design. But franchise fans are going to find a lot to love here, as again, it's so interesting to see the lies and the stories and the web here that our killer will weave around these potential victims, and the fact that most of them get to this point to where they absolutely realize they shouldn't be around this person and they shouldn't be there, and they don't know necessarily if they're in danger, but they do know this is not a situation they should be sticking around in at all. And that is phenomenal to see. Like, again, especially like something about the setting of the first episode, Mike, here, to where it's snowing at Joseph Aaron's I call Peachfuzz because that's the only thing that like is consistent across this, but it's snowing at Peachfuzz's location. And something about slasher movies with snow is just so calming for whatever reason. I don't know why, but there's something so incredibly beautiful about that. So that very much stood out from Mike's episode. But again, a lot of this very much felt like what we got in that first film. And if you're a fan of the franchise, that's a really good thing, because it's kind of like you're getting reacquainted with an old friend, and the show does a good job with that. But if you're new to this here, things kind of get to where they're going super, super quick. And again, the nuance of the performance, the gravity of the situation just might not really settle in time before the credits hit in this first episode. So I am excited to see how they expand on this idea across this season. You know, a lot of people have been speculating whether or not we're going to get any backstory or any other really good information about like what's the true background here of Peachfuzz. Like, is any of the stuff that he was telling Aaron in that first film actually true? Because we know that at the very least, Joseph apparently has a sister out there. That's one thing that we do know, but beyond that, there's not much else. And I'm saying that I need to watch Creep 2 again sometime really, really soon, because I haven't watched that in a couple of years at this point. But, you know, I do wonder if one of these episodes, because there's only 6 episodes in this season here. This is going to be done before Christmas. But I do wonder if we're going to get more of an explanation of the motives here. If we're really going to get a reasoning for why all of this is happening. If it doesn't, I'm not going to be upset about that. That's not going to wreck my enjoyment of the film, but I would like to get just a little bit more, because that would very much, I think, sweeten what I love so much about seeing these interactions, and now hoping that Peachfuzz is just going to ultimately decide to let this person off the hook. But who knows? We'll say here that our scene of violence that we get in this, and like the needle drop that happens before the chase ensues, so good. The beginning of Creep 2, by the way, is phenomenal, because it's Karan Soni, I believe is his name, Dopinder from the Deadpool movies, and it's a scene between him and Mark Duplass. And he's telling Duplass's character about this stalker that he has, and how like the actions have grown increasingly erratic and increasingly scary. And as Mark Duplass slowly starts to reveal more and more information in the beginning, it's like, it's terrifying, but it's also so enjoyable. And we get that same kind of reveal here towards the climax of episode 1 of this show. And it just reminded me that this is one of the best things that I love about Duplass's performance, is that he really is so good. He's like a magician almost, to where he's keeping that like that curtain, keeping that little like blanket, that towel up, so he can do the magic behind it, and nobody is paying attention. Like, everyone's looking here, and you should be looking here, and he does it so well. The bit with the axe is so creepy and yet so good. But again, I'm very hopeful that this series will expand a lot more and give us some vastly different situations, because they can't all be coming back to Peachfuzz's house. So let's see where else this ends up taking us. But it's a good start for this show for franchise fans. New fans, you might struggle with it a little bit, but I'm excited to cover this show for y'all. Let me know in the comment section, between the 2 Creep films, which one your preference has been so far, for a chance to win a copy of the novelization of X. And stay tuned, as I'm gonna be covering the entire season here on the show, y'all. That's it tonight, though. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.
Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/axdew. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/axdew, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.